Welcome to Alpha Technologies Insight Broadcast. My name is Ashwin Kumar. I'm the Global Product Manager, and today we are tackling a question that's come up in many of our customer conversations. Why do we move away from Eclipse? And more importantly, how does our platform, Enterprise, solve the issues Eclipse users have faced over the past couple of years? I'm joined here with Darin, who is our Marketing Technology Manager and our Inside Digital Technology expert. Welcome, Darin.
Welcome.
Can you give us a brief history of Eclipse? Where did it all begin and how has it evolved over time?
Um, well, everybody thinks it started back about 2000 when Alpha acquired Eclipse. But it started out in about 1986 by a Dutch company that worked with a few local customers to build a LIMS system.
Mm-hmm.
And they built it up, and Alpha Technologies was looking for a software solution to replace some of their components that they had put together. But they found Eclipse, they purchased it, and that was in 1999, and I started in 2000, which was part of the whole process.
Of course.
And we took the software and kind of expanded it to a global system, made some improvements to make it more globalized,
Mm-hmm.
and distributed it worldwide from that point. We started development enterprise in about 2004, and Eclipse ran until 2012, where we stopped programming on it.
That does seem like a long time ago when you think about it. What kind of scale do you think Eclipse reached at its peak?
I think there was about 2,500, 3,000 licenses, and that could be single instrument connections also, as well as network connection licenses.
Yeah,
Yes.
that seems like a lot of licenses when you think about it. And we actually have customers who are still using Eclipse and are using some of its good functionalities that was built in over 2 decades ago. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the end of life. So we have officially reached the end of life for Eclipse. We announced it early this year. What does it mean for our users on the platform?
Well, end of life for Eclipse has kind of been a slow process. So as enterprise involved, as I said, it started out about 2004 when we were developing it. And as we grew the product to kind of expand and do all the things that Eclipse did, as I said, we stopped in 2012 programming. That was the last patch release of Eclipse. And we kept supporting it as we tried to migrate everybody over to enterprise from that point. 2017, I think we put in an official end-of-life document and said, hey, we're done supporting Eclipse. But we've been trying to work with our customers all a while.
Of course.
And now just recently, in the last couple of years, our support teams kind of changed out, and we have newer people in the support team. And being able to help customers with the problems that are that they're experiencing with Eclipse now is just difficult because they don't have the experience with Eclipse to be able to troubleshoot it.
Yeah. Seeing as a lot of our, I wouldn't say a lot, seeing as still some of our customers still use the platform, so still use the software, I'm sure it comes with a lot of core technical limitations because the software itself is over 2 decades old, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think those core technical limitations might be, and why would you think Enterprise is better over Eclipse?
Well, if you think back, it was started in 1986.
Of course.
So, think about the computers back then and the technology back then. And although we've upgraded Eclipse technology throughout the years, it still had the core platform, the database being a DBase4 database system.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself has limitations. The programming language and the design of the system was built for the structures back then. And so as we looked at the software, we'd have to rewrite Eclipse to keep it modern, to give it a newer database. And essentially that's what we did with Enterprise.
Of course.
Is we did all these updates, built all the improvements into the Enterprise platform to replace Eclipse and keep it with a modern system.
I mean, I'm thinking of this from a client standpoint at this point, right? I'm a tire manufacturer. I've got a lot of instruments, some of them running a 2-decade-old software. I'm sure this has a lot of risks and a big impact on my system. What do you think might be the biggest impact for some of our clients?
Well, you're trying to support a lot of older technology. So as operating systems evolve and become newer, they're implementing a lot of security. Because when you think about like security, back in 2000 versus security today, there's a lot of things that we didn't know back then, and have changed. So right in the operating system, there's a lot of like we prevent a lot of things. And one of the things that Eclipse does that is a big no-no today is it starts up another program from itself. So the DAISY software starts up and it runs out and executes another program to start up the instruments. And that's one of the biggest problems that we see is the operating system is always trying to stop that and prevent that. And you may not see those programs start up. And you got to play around and eventually maybe it'll start up. But we can't control that.
Yep.
That comes down to security and operating system, and that's just something that you don't know. That's just not allowed today. On top of that, you look at the database, DBase 4 structures and all this. It's hard to support that, and it's hard to get tools and the components to recover if something goes wrong. And so you become very at risk with the software as it is.
Of course, and with Windows announcing end of life for their Windows 10 and actively pushing all of its users towards Windows 11, how do you think OS compatibility factors into this equation?
Well, if you think about, we stopped programming Eclipse in 2012. I'm not even sure if Windows 7 might have just been coming out at that time.
Of course, yeah. Windows Vista.
Yeah. So there has been no compatibility updates, no improvements as the operating system has evolved. So at any moment, you could just stop working. And there's nothing that we can do about it because that's what technology is evolving.
Of course.
Also, the platforms are going to 64-bit. Eclipse was built around 32-bit when it was converted. It started back in 16-bit. So, you're jumping over a lot of hurdles to keep the software running, and it's very risky.
Yeah, I completely agree. If I was a user, I will definitely be worried about this. Well, Enterprise was actually built to solve a lot of these issues. We spoke some about Eclipse's limitations, but let's talk a little bit about Enterprise's advantages. What new features does Enterprise have? And if a customer switches from Eclipse to Enterprise, what is something that they notice right away when they start using the software?
Well, I guess you could kind of compare it to going from a black and white movie to a colorized version of the movie. So there's a lot of things that it does the same. The looks are very different, but you start seeing more information. So just like the colorized version, the database limitations go away. So you had a 2 gig limit on your database with Eclipse. So when we went to Enterprise, we built it off of the Microsoft SQL platform, and that allows us to essentially become a almost unlimited size database.
Okay.
So we took a lot of hurdles out that Eclipse had. The restrictions on how many data points you could have, the curve information, The calculations that you can do, we can customize calculations in the software so we can do things, we didn't have to, like if I wanted a custom calculation in Eclipse, I'd have to request, and a programmer would have to program that calculation and make it available eventually in some release. With Enterprise, there's a lot of calculations that we can just build right into the software when we create that variable.
Oh.
And it becomes available right there for the customer, and there's very little or no waiting at all for that. So we really looked at what our customers were doing at the time and have built a lot of those functions, or we've gotten over those hurdles that Eclipse had and a lot of the restrictions when we went to the enterprise software.
That's great. I think it looks like you can see actionable impacts immediately once you switch over to the new platform. I want to talk a little bit about reporting, because that's one aspect a lot of our customers rave about and are happy about. How does Eclipse and Enterprise differ in reporting, and do you think Enterprise is a better platform or it makes it easier?
Well, that's always been a question between Eclipse and Enterprise. Enterprise, we established a generic platform for reporting, which allows customers or our support team to help build a custom report for a customer. So you weren't limited to whatever was built in. In that generic method, you do lose some of the custom setups that were in Eclipse, just because if you program a report and you have full control over programming and making it happen, you could do a lot at that level and generate a report. And that's how Eclipse was. When you go to a generic platform, you don't have a lot of those tools. So, we've done a lot to get the data in a format that we can customize and do things with. But we've opened the flexibility to do more with reporting and offer a lot more functionality and allowing the customers at their fingertips to do things with reporting that they couldn't do previously.
Yep. That does sound like a real benefit for our customers.
Yep.
Let's switch a little to some specific examples if we can. Can you share some good examples of customers who've benefited from moving to Enterprise?
Yeah, there's a lot of different examples, but I will say our customers that have used Eclipse, they're all die-hard users of the software.
Of course.
And I've gone in and installed Eclipse, and it was hard trying to pull that Eclipse out of their fingertips. They just did not want to go to Enterprise. And I've come back like 3 months later, and every customer that was in that scenario, they were all like, why did we hold on to Eclipse? Enterprise is so much better. It does so much more. And the functionality and ease of use is way better than Eclipse. And I've heard that countless times of customers. As I said, they were diehard, just couldn't move from Eclipse, moved over to Enterprise, and they were all, it's a world of difference.
Of course.
The connectivity. We have customers that need to get data into other systems. Having the data in a SQL database makes it very accessible. Enterprise has what we call process manager that allows you to program custom events. So if you want actions to happen, automatic reports to print out, scheduling retest, doing all these things, we can customize this whole automation system that does all this stuff in the background so that the end users don't have to worry about doing all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think we're nearing our time, and thank you so much, Darin, for sharing your insights, and very detailed insights, I must say, because we've covered technical limitations and we've covered a lot of user experience. So that was a lot of content to go through. So if I have to summarize, from data limits and legacy UI, compliance, efficiency. It looks like Eclipse has definitely served its purpose well, but future is definitely enterprise. So, in our next episode, we will go through a little bit about our product roadmap, talk about what we have in store for enterprise, and how it's going to shape the future of our lab software.